What's up, everyone? It's John, National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go live this week. It was a long week, and I just this I have a couple things I have to take care of, so it wasn't a very realistic week. I'm thinking, and I'm actually I haven't mentioned it in a while because honestly, I got locked out of my own Discord. I wasn't like locked out, but I just couldn't get in. But I'm going to post it in here. This is usually where I'll post everything as far as going live. I also want to thank everybody in the Discord for just, always contributing because I haven't been in there in months and I feel bad. It's just because I had a lot of stuff going on and I was trying to log in, and for whatever reason, because I got a new phone, it took me forever. So I'm back in my Discord. But anyway, for everyone that's in there, I do appreciate you guys. We got like 50 to 100 people, and we have a lot of people that just give a lot of good insight as far as live betting, things like that. So I'll post a link for the Discord in the comments section. But I'll see what week you guys want me to go live. I definitely want to go live before the playoffs. So it'll be in the next couple weeks for sure. And then what time? Some people like to go live during the games. I do because I can see things in live time. Others like before the game because then we could talk about the game and then you could just watch the game. But anyway, I wanted to go into this week. Again, I meant to get an NBA video out too. I did my playoff prediction video, and then I haven't really been able to go into the NBA too much just because, again, sometimes life's a little busy. But what put our channel on the map. So by the way, last week we were about 50-50. We didn't do anything crazy. We did all right, but we missed a decent bit of them. I did pick some straight up underdogs, so obviously they're not going to come through. Other ones worked out, but like the Jags, we got the clip cover, so they covered by they got the clip. They were 3.5 point dogs, things like that. I wanted to go into the Bears just because it's an ongoing narrative. Since week 3, I went into how this guy should have been fired, Matt Eberflus. This man, and in my last 2 videos, even the one before he blew the game, I was like, the Lions should cover. The only way they don't is if it comes down to a potential game-winning drive and Matt Eberflus gets his hands on it, because it's almost like a meme at this point. This man has found so many ways to blow games. So sure enough, I mean, we don't even need to talk about it. If you want my opinion on it, just watch the very last video I did. I did an entire breakdown on just 2 minutes. It showed, the last 2 minutes of incompetent coaching. But I do think now that they got rid of him, the Bears should finish pretty strong. Maybe nothing crazy, but I think they improved. They were 7-10 last year. I had them 9-8, and I said maybe even 10-7. It's looking more like 8-9, but I wouldn't be surprised if they finished 9-8, even though they have a tough game coming up this week because the Niners need it. But I'm going to go into all that. Maybe 8-9 makes more sense, but with the new coach, and they're going to have a brand new coach next year, a good team to get on early. Very good future next year for them. So let's go through this week's there's other teams with narratives. We got the Saints-Giants, and in this one I actually do like, because you look at the NFC South, you got the Falcons at 6-6, the Bucs at 6-6. The Saints lose, they're essentially out of the picture. If they win, then again, when they play, I think they do play the Bucs again. I could be wrong, but their games will have a little more stakes. So I do like the Saints to win this game. It comes down to, do they cover, and I will take them to cover. I think they'll look okay. It kind of looks like their season's over because a lot of the talking heads are saying that the season's over for them. But I think they can keep it interesting, so I'll take the Saints to cover. We got the Browns Steelers. And 6.5, it is about right, but simply because it's the AFC North and you got the Browns Steelers rivalry. Typically you would think it's going to be closer. Steelers is a team that I was wrong on. I thought they were going to finish around 9-8 and miss the playoffs. And they're clearly going to make the playoffs. So I actually think they're going to cover here. Make them look really ferocious. And the Browns, they've been hanging with a couple teams that they even won against. Well, I forget who it was. I think it was like the Bengals or something a couple weeks ago. Who did they play a couple weeks ago and they beat them? Oh, okay, it was actually Pittsburgh. Yeah, they beat they beat the Steelers and they beat the Ravens. So, that tells me the public's going to be on Cleveland. So I like Pittsburgh here for the cover here, -6.5. Falcons, Vikings here. Vikings giving up 6. Vikings is another one I was wrong on. We called a couple good ones. We always do. And then, of course, we're going to miss some. Like the Falcons is a good one that we've called, I think, I would say. As far as even being competitive in the NFC South. I think a lot of people thought the Bucs were going to run away with it. So, Vikings obviously also making the playoffs. The question comes down to, do they cover? And this is one I actually do like. I like the upset. I like Kirk Cousins to go into Minnesota and beat his old team. They do that a lot in the NFL. So obviously it's a rivalry game, and you got Kirk playing his old team. So I'm going to take the Falcons to win straight up here. We got the Raiders, Bucs here. Raiders are a tricky one because they'll come out and win games they shouldn't, or at least be very close in games they shouldn't. And then other weeks they just look like a college team. To me, I'm looking at like the long-term picture here, and I really firmly believe the Jags are going to get the last pick in the draft. I'm sorry, the first. And for that to happen, obviously they would. Now, I'm not sure how the tiebreakers work and all that, but they would want the worst record. So it makes me think the Raiders might win, because then again the Jags would basically be the worst team, maybe outside of the Giants for now, and probably secure that first pick in the draft. So I'm kind of leaning for a Raiders win in that regard. And also just because I don't think too many people are going to be on the Raiders. They've been pretty bad. The few games they won are ones they shouldn't have. And this would qualify as a game they shouldn't win. So I'm going to take the Raiders to win outright. Panthers, Eagles. That's a pretty big spread. Usually when you have big spreads, the team covers. The logic being, if somebody's picking a parlay, right, they're not very likely to want to have a game where they need to win by 2 touchdowns in that parlay. It's just basic sports psychology, which Vegas uses, by the way. So usually when I see this, it's not always the case, but people are going to just stay away from this type of game. They're not going to want to take the Eagles -13.5, even if they've been looking good. So I think, if anything, more people would maybe do a teaser and get the Panthers +20.5, something like that. I'm taking the Eagles to cover the 13.5. I think they're going to just pelt the Panthers here. And it also makes them look very dangerous. Again, the Lions are really the only team looking dangerous in the NFC. The Eagles can be the other one. Jags, Titans, I kind of went into this already. I like the Titans. Especially with the Trevor Lawrence injury. I think that was them basically foreshadowing how their season is going to end. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost out the rest of the season. I really think it just makes sense. You give them the first pick in the draft. You either replace Lawrence or you have Lawrence with that new player. You probably hire a prestigious coach. And now you're off to London. I think they're going to be in London next year, if not the year after, with a completely different team. So for me, I think the Titans win. Again, it comes down to do they cover. I'll say yeah. I think they'll beat them by at least a field goal, probably more closer to like 10 points. Jets, Dolphins is obvious. The Dolphins are going to win because they need to win for the playoff picture to be interesting. So if they lose, we basically know the playoffs already, and we're 3-4 weeks out. That's not good ratings. And the Jets are eliminated. So the Dolphins are definitely going to win. We know that. The question comes down to, do they cover? And I can see it going both ways, but I have noticed on the road, Tua is terrible. He plays terrible in the cold. He's just, like Bernie Sanders with the mittens. He's just terrible out there. When he plays at home, he lights it up. This is a great game to prop bet. By that I mean taking the Dolphins to win with Tua throwing for over 300, probably 3 touchdowns, and then you give one of them to Hill or Waddle, maybe even both, and you're going to get yourself a nice 6-1 payout. So I love the Dolphins to win. Again, do they cover? It's really tough. I think 6 points is a little bit heavy. A lot of people view these teams almost equally, even though the Jets have been garbage. I'm going to take the Dolphins to cover the 6 too, but I think it's a better game to parlay the win with some type of Tua prop. He's going over 300, I think, and I think he's probably going to do 3 touchdowns. Seahawks Cardinals. Cardinals, I love this one. It just knots up the division. They'll both be 7-6, which means that the Niners will be in it. Really win or lose, the Niners will be in it, but with a win, they'll really be in it. So I like the Cardinals here, and I'll take them to cover. I think they'll win by at least a field goal. Bills Rams. The Bills do this every week, and I fall for it every week. Like I of all the teams, you know, not that the Rams are garbage, but we just saw a 13.5 point spread. The Bills are only just over a field goal favorite, and it just seems always to be the case. So then it makes me think it's a trap. You know, everyone's going to take the Bills minus 3.5. The Rams are going to win, and then the Bills win, or at least cover. So it's really weird. That being said, I'm sticking to my logic. My logic tells me nobody is taking the Rams here. What I'm not going to do is make the mistake of taking the money line. Rams plus 3.5. Safest play, and I think that's what happens. I think if the Bills do win, it's by exactly 3. Bears, Niners. So, the Bears, I believe, I think his name's like Tommy Jones or something. I forget. But their offensive coordinator, I believe he's taken over the coaching duties, and they got rid of Eberflus. But the problem is they don't have their new coach yet. So until they get their new coach, I just don't see them looking, really great. I think we're going to see improvement. And like I said, I could see them winning close to every game left in the season. But against the Niners, if the Bears win this game, the Niners, they could go on a run. And I guess they could go that way. But I think they'd basically be eliminated. I don't see them eliminating the Niners. So I'm actually going to take the Niners to win and cover. With the logic, the Bears look good enough. We don't see egregious errors. They're playing the team that just was in the Super Bowl. Obviously, there's some different circumstances, but even playing them close will look good for this new offensive coordinator. And again, if it was like a coach, like say they got Jay Cutler or something, or went out and got Belichick, it would make sense for them to win. But since it's someone that's going to be replaced in a few weeks anyway, again, I don't think it makes sense for them to come out and look like $1 million. So I think we see a good game from the Bears, but so they can stay in the hunt, the Niners definitely win, and I'll take the Niners to cover. And then I think as the season progresses, the Bears will improve. Chargers, Chiefs. The Chargers can't really catch the Chiefs, like by winning out, and the Chiefs losing out maybe, but like stuff like besides that, anything realistic isn't happening. I do think them being one of the teams to beat the Chiefs would be interesting. Now, with the Chiefs with only one loss, what they can do is they can keep this narrative of Brady and Mahomes, right? Because Brady obviously finished, whatever it was, 17-1, but the one game he lost was the Super Bowl. So they can have Mahomes do the same thing, but the only game he loses be in the regular season. That all being said, I like the Chiefs to win. And then it comes down to, do they cover? I think more of the public is going to be wanting the Chargers and picking the Chargers. I'm going to take the Chiefs to cover the 4 here. And then we got Bengals, Cowboys. Bengals, again, you have to look at the playoff pictures, right? This really helps. I'm not trying to take too long, but so for the AFC, we already know the Steelers are getting in, and we know the Ravens are getting in. We know the Bills are getting in. We know the Texans are getting in. And then so you have to look at the other 3 teams. The Chargers are going to be one of them. And I don't think the Colts are going to be one. So it kind of leaves, the possibility for 2 teams. One of them being the Dolphins. The other, the Bengals, who a long time ago, we had making a run and actually making the playoffs. So I think the Bengals are going to win this game. which again I've conceded a couple weeks ago. I had the Cowboys making the playoffs, and then I decided I had them going as far as the Super Bowl, and then I said, you know what, it just you can see the writing on the wall for them. So even if the Cowboys win, I don't think they're going to do anything crazy. But to me, the Bengals winning here and just kind of sneaking their way into the playoffs, which I think they're going to do, is a better story. And then you might even get Burrow versus Mahomes in the first round. Well, the Chiefs will probably have a bye, so it'd be the second round if he makes it. So, Bengals win, and again, it comes down to do they cover? I think they will. The Cowboys at home this year, it's been ridiculous. I don't think they've won one game at home. I think all their wins have been on the road. And they're getting cremated at home, too. So, I think the Bengals beat them pretty bad at home. And then that puts the Bengals really one game out of the playoffs. Which is what I've been trying to say. They have the playoffs formatted this way for a reason. Like, gosh, even the Jets, if they weren't as bad as they're doing, like one more win, and they could actually be in contention for the playoffs. And that's why they do it the way they do. So you can, down the road, and anybody can get in. That's the reason I like teams like the Saints. If they lose, they're basically eliminated. And why eliminate them when they're going to play some teams in the NFC going forward that are going to be good ratings if they're still in the playoffs. So yeah, like I said, of all these games, the Dolphins stick out to me the most. I just really like Tua to have a good game, as well as, Hill and Waddle, but I'll say Hill or Waddle. A lot of times one of those guys will go off for like 150 and 2 touchdowns. The other won't. Sometimes they both do, but you can do 2 props. You can do Dolphins win, Tua 3 touchdowns, and then Hill, maybe 2 touchdowns, right? That's going to pay you a lot. Or you can go, and then you can do another one. Dolphins win, Tua over 300, and then Waddle to get a touchdown and like 100 yards. I bet you one of them pays. If not both. So we'll see what happens, but that one jumps out to me. It's probably the one I'm going to be focusing the most on. And then a few of the others. The Rams kind of jumps out. Really feel like they cover this 3.5. And then as well as the Bengals winning. The cover's harder to call, but just to keep the playoff picture interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of plays this week that I like for. I went into the Jags because of Trevor Lawrence, all that stuff. So, the first round pick. So yeah, I think we're going to have a pretty strong week this week. And just looking at some of these narratives, again, Eberflus, I think it was, definitely not a week too late, but it was 106 years of what has it been? The history of the Bears. They've never fired a coach in the middle of the year. First time they've ever done it. And we predicted it, so that's pretty cool. But no, it was just that bad. It needed to happen. So there's no other coaches I'm really looking at right now. I think McCarthy's going to get fired, but it's going to be in the offseason. The Cowboys will get rid of him. And then some of these other coaches may be in some trouble, but we'll have to see. So anyway, take care and happy earnings.